My uncle's dementia and my sister's entitlement. You can't keep him locked up versus I'm not making my life miserable for his comfort. After years of care, I finally set boundaries in our family home, but my sister's power play threatens to unravel it all. How do I keep my peace? I have already posted in the subreddit that cannot be named, but I need more opinions. I am a 36-year-old female living in a large house in the countryside, which is owned equally by my father and uncle, each holding a 50% share. They inherited it from their uncles, and it is filled with art and elegant items, or at least it used to be. My uncle has resided in this house for nearly 10 years without doing anything to maintain it. I am referring to hoarding, trash, and leftover food from months ago locked in a wardrobe, while mice have infested his room, leaving droppings everywhere. 5 or 6 years ago, I began spending a few weeks in this house, attempting to resolve issues and eliminate the mouse invasion while making the garden livable again. It required a substantial amount of work, time, energy, and money. 1 year ago, I moved in full-time because my uncle's health has deteriorated to the point that he is unable to care for himself due to diabetes and dementia, exacerbated by his exclusive consumption of junk food without adhering to a proper regimen. I arranged several doctor appointments, and all the medical professionals, including nurses, a geriatric doctor, and a diabetes doctor, advised that he should not have unrestricted access to food and that we should prepare his meals to prevent a worsening of his blood sugar levels, which are directly correlated to his early dementia, for your information. I do not like my uncle. He has been stealing anything that was not secured to the walls of this house, including art, silverware, and furniture, to sell it behind my father's back for years. He is simply not a nice person, and now that he is old and demented, he is extremely unpleasant. He lies, neglects his hygiene, and fails to care for his poor dog. His room would be overrun with garbage and mice if I did not clean it. However, I acknowledge him as part of the house package and deal with it. He can no longer drive and has no money, a long story, but he squandered a 600,000 inheritance in 6 years. I cover all the grocery expenses, do the cooking, and handle the cleaning while my father pays the bills. It is sort of a caregiver deal. I used to frequently complain to my family about him coming into my room, touching and stealing my belongings, being unkempt, dirtying the house, mistreating his dog, and allowing it to relieve itself indoors while we have a large fenced garden for my dogs to enjoy all day. However, I have stopped complaining since we found a solution 6 months ago to prevent him from disturbing the house. We relocated him to the dependency. He is now outside the main house. He cannot enter without supervision and he has no access to food. The house remains clean and he has a tidy room. We have been gradually clearing out his old room, but it is slow work due to being covered in mouse droppings and water damage. He receives 3 cooked meals a day, plus a couple of snacks if requested. I am monitoring his blood sugar because when it is high, he becomes completely irrational, shouting, crying, and expressing anxiety about his lack of money and the fact that his son and ex-partner have not spoken to him in years. He is a terrible person and everyone knows it. His dog has free access to the outside and no longer relieves itself indoors, and his blood sugar levels have improved compared to the last couple of years. Naturally, he does not get to do everything he would like, such as coming in and stealing food or wandering around collecting shiny objects, but I believe it is a small price to pay for living off my family's money and care. After several challenging months, we have established a balance. The real issue is my relationship with my sister, who is 39 years old. We did not speak for a couple of years in the past because I needed a break from her sense of entitlement and aggression. She's the type of person who will verbally abuse you if you do not comply with her demands, and if you push back, she becomes aggressive and toxic. She prevented me from seeing my nieces and nephews for 2 years and is very manipulative and dishonest. Personally, I also believe she lacks intelligence. I would like to know your opinions. She came to spend a few days in the house and she is always welcome to do so. It is her house too, as it belongs to our father, and I enjoy sharing the common spaces with her children. We had a lovely couple of days. They invited some friends over and I was a gracious host. One of the guests spoke only English, which she does not understand, so I entertained this guest for the entire afternoon and evening. I played with the children when she and her partner left without notice for 3 hours to go shopping for their barbecue. I made them breakfast and snacks. I did not clean up after them or prepare meals for them. There are 4 children in total because I did that at Christmas for 10 days when they stayed here, and I found it very overwhelming and not my responsibility. The couple often isolates themselves in their room to smoke away from the children. And while I do not mind making snacks for the kids if they need something, I will not go the extra mile anymore because it is not my obligation, as I am child-free by choice. She also mentioned something like, "Let us know if there is anything you need, especially financially, because we should all share the burdens of this house." Since we moved my uncle to the dependency before Christmas, She has argued that it is unkind to him because this house is also his, and he should have unrestricted access to all areas. My parents and I have explained to her countless times that it poses a hygiene issue. He is genuinely filthy to have him wandering around the kitchen since he touches everything. I used to clean the light switches twice daily because he left them so sticky, and I find the thought of him touching my food repugnant. He consumes anything raw flour, uncooked chicken, sweet treats he should not touch. And I have many expensive belongings around, such as video games, books, Lego, bikes, and televisions, and I do not want him to steal anything. I have found my possessions in his room in the past. I am unsure if he does it intentionally or if it is a side effect of dementia, but it is irrelevant to me. This arrangement is functioning well. He has adapted to the routine and never complains, always thanking me. Although he is not living his best life, he is a terrible human being who has been abandoned by all his close family and friends, and he is fortunate that my father and I are there to assist him. I will not make my life more miserable just because he desires to roam the house when he has his own space and a large garden available to him. When my sister and her partner visited with their children for a few days last week, I reminded her multiple times to keep at least the kitchen door to the garden and his dependency closed. He can easily walk to the front of the house where we congregate and enter from there if he wishes. I also explained that we need to ensure he does not eat between meals because he only takes metformin twice daily. She nodded, and I assumed that was that. Throughout their stay, I had to close the kitchen door at least a dozen times. Sometimes even in the evening, there have been some burglaries in the vicinity, and I prefer to be safe rather than sorry. Inevitably, some food has gone missing, and I reminded my sister's partner, who happened to be present at the time, to close the door because we are also striving to prevent mice on top of my uncle's antics. I mentioned to him that I had reminded my sister, but she seemed unconcerned, and I asked him to help remind her. He responded, "You need to find a way to communicate with her," to which I replied, I reminded her of a simple rule in place to prevent various issues, and she nodded, yet now she is acting behind my back for no apparent reason, seemingly just to upset me. I did not pursue the matter further with him, but sought out my sister to discuss it. She was loading their car to leave, so the timing may not have been ideal. I admit I was frustrated, but I informed her that it was rude and childish to agree with me to my face and then actively disregard the one rule we all agreed upon. She began explaining that it was her right to keep the door open, that this is her house too, and that I was being unfair to our uncle. I reminded her how our uncle is sick, and it is primarily to prevent him from harming himself by binge eating or leaving 4 stove burners on as he did the week prior to his move, but also because this is a somewhat isolated house in the countryside. If the back door is left open, especially where we keep the trash, it may allow thieves and mice to enter. I have been combating a mouse problem for the past year, and I would prefer not to start that battle again. That is when, in my opinion, she completely lost it. She stated that if hygiene is truly a concern, I should refrain from complaining because she discovered mouse droppings in a pot in a cupboard. I replied that I am aware that some mice are still getting in, and that is why we should attempt to prevent it. She shouted, "If you have an issue with mice, maybe you should not have moved to the countryside." I was astounded. I thought to myself, are you genuinely that ignorant? I reminded her that even the night before, she went to bed earlier than us and forgot to close the door, which I had to shut. And at that point, her partner interjected, stating, "Actually, she came down to clean the kitchen after 11 p.m. and could have closed the door then." As if mice and thieves only operate between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. It seems ignorant individuals find each other easily. The conversation ended abruptly because I was also addressing a builder fixing our roof, as I handle all issues while living here, and he was leaving. After a brief conversation, I was done. At that moment, they had loaded the car, luggage, and children and left without allowing us to say a proper goodbye to the kids. She has often utilized her children to punish me and my parents in the past, and I find it to be a disturbing pattern. Now my partner, who strongly dislikes my sister, believes that I should simply let it go and allow her to do as she pleases when she is here, as she is a spoiled, entitled person who will never change. Unfortunately, I concur that she is unlikely to change, although for the past year we have been trying to reconnect, and this feels like a significant setback. However, I believe she should adhere to whatever rule ensures the house and the majority of its inhabitants remain content, because I suspect she is merely playing a manipulative power game to assert her ownership of the house as well. It is not solely mine. We both agree she and her partner are not particularly intelligent, and we cannot expect much from them. I have spoken to my father about the situation, and he agrees with my perspective. My mother has no comments. I know she has ceased complaining about my sister since she has treated them poorly in the past concerning their grandparents' rights. She departed a couple of days ago, and my uncle has been notably confused since, as if the shift in routine is too challenging for his foggy mind to process. I genuinely do not know how to deal with her without jeopardizing my relationship with the children. How does one manage this type of person without compromising one's own mental health? To summarize, my sister does not respect a straightforward rule we established in the family home to prevent pests and a demented uncle from damaging the house. I believe it is a power play. Is it unreasonable to expect her to follow this rule irrespective of her personal views? I apologize for the lengthy text, but I needed to vent. Story 2. My Olympian sister cut me off after I tried to be there for her. Now she calls me narcissistic over a towel. After years of conflict, I just want to see my nieces and nephews again. Is there any way to heal this fracture, or am I destined for silence? Hi everyone, I am a 40-year-old female and am completely heartbroken. My older sister, let us call her Amy, 44 years old, has completely cut me off and says I am narcissistic. She has also blocked me from seeing my nieces and nephews who mean the world to me. I have emailed her calmly several times over the past 2 years, offering therapy, mediation, anything, but she will not respond. I am at a total loss, and this estrangement is impacting not only me but also our mother and the entire family dynamic. I want to provide some background and specific examples in hopes that anyone here can help me understand where things may have gone wrong or what steps I can take to start healing. I am open to feedback, even if it is difficult to hear. About Amy. She is an incredible person, in many ways intelligent, magnetic, and exceptionally persuasive. Her friends say she could sell ice to an Eskimo, and she is even an Olympian. She has always embodied the classic firstborn demeanor: successful, polished, and responsible. I truly admired her then and still do deeply. Growing up, I wanted us to be best friends, share inside jokes, and be close like sisters do in movies. However, she consistently maintained a more parental or older sibling distance. I understand this is not uncommon, but it made me feel as though I was never completely allowed into her inner world. An example that stands out from high school. When I was a senior in high school, Amy invited me to her senior sorority play at her university. I attended with my college freshman boyfriend, who was a popular quarterback. During the performance, the seniors did a skit where they spilled tea anonymously, but it was clear who they were referring to. Amy stood on stage and said something like, "Remember that quarterback who plays well on and off the field? He is even messing around with a high school girl." Everyone in the room turned to look at me. That was how I discovered he was cheating on me with college girls. At the time, I thought my sister was being protective by calling him out. Now I am uncertain if that was truly about helping me or humiliating me. Adult life. We both got married and went through divorces. Amy divorced first, and when I was undergoing mine 7 months later, I called her for advice. She told me, "Figure it out yourself." That was very hurtful, especially since I tried to support her during her separation. My ex-husband noticed how Amy treated me and said, "Be the sister you wish you had." Those words stuck with me. I really made an effort after that. When COVID-19 struck, I had not heard from Amy for 2 months. I sent her a video expressing that I missed her and the children. She replied with a video stating that she was satisfied with our communication level and did not need to speak regularly. I tried to respect that, but it hurt immensely. After COVID-19, we resumed family visits. When I flew in to see her, Amy did not hug me or greet me, she simply stared at her phone. My mother and I sat at the dining table anticipating a catch-up, while Amy remained on the couch holding up her finger and saying, "Wait." Finally, I asked, "What is going on?" And she responded, "You are too much for me, I am triggered, I need to decompress." I began crying from shock and hurt, and she remarked, "See." I felt as though even my emotions were being used as evidence against me. The turning point. In the summer of 2023, we had a significant beach house vacation planned with extended family, including Amy's current husband, her ex-husband, who is her friend, all 4 children, and our grandparents. A minor disagreement about hiring a photographer spiraled into tension between Amy and our father. I attempted to play peacemaker but gently sided with my father, which apparently was the final straw. Amy told me I was disrespectful and warned me not to speak to her during the trip, stating outright that she would walk away if I even attempted to initiate a conversation with her. Instead of ruining the vacation, I chose not to go. I said, "I do not want to create drama. I will sit this one out so everyone can enjoy their time." After that, at Christmas 2023, I flew home, but Amy would not allow me to see my nieces and nephews. She told our mother that I am narcissistic and blocked me from everything: social media, phone calls, and even indirect contact. I used to communicate with her ex-husband, the children's father, just to arrange gifts or send birthday wishes, but Amy restricted that access too, stating there would be no more backdoor communication. I was completely unaware of these changes until I returned home, and my mother had to inform me. Since then, I have sent 12 calm emails per year inquiring if she would be open to therapy, mediation, or simply discussing our issues. I have acknowledged my flaws and the ways I might have unintentionally hurt her. There has been no response. Our mother is now 73 years old and is fearful of being cut off by Amy as well, so she walks on eggshells. I feel entirely isolated from my sister's family. Yes, this estrangement hurts more than my own divorce. Why I am posting here? I'm not perfect. I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, clinical depression, anxiety, and have faced many struggles financially, academically, and professionally. I did not complete college, frequently find myself between jobs, and have been labeled the black sheep or perhaps gray sheep of the family. Nevertheless, I have always shown up for my family with love and sincerity. I adore my nieces and nephews. I have made considerable efforts to reconnect with them. They are currently in their preteens, and I have not hugged them in nearly 3 years. If I am a narcissist, I want to know. However, I do not see myself in that description. I may be emotionally intense, I may communicate excessively or seek connection more than she does. I may make mistakes. However, I have never acted with malice or manipulation. Additionally, due to my mental health, I have undergone 2 thorough psychiatric evaluations, both of which confirmed attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and clinical depression. Is narcissism not also assessed during those evaluations? I seek advice from anyone, especially siblings, who has been on either side of a situation like this. How do you begin repairing a relationship when someone perceives you as a threat? Is there anything else I can do, or should I simply accept this painful silence and move on with my life? Thank you for taking the time to read this. Edit updates. First of all, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who replied. The overall consensus seems to be, let it be, give her space and wait for the children to grow up. So that is what I will begin doing from today onward. As painful as it is, I feel I have made every effort and I do not want to continue chasing someone who does not desire a relationship with me. I was perfectly fine with just being civil and keeping things family related. It really does feel like a damned if I do, damned if I do not situation. The original post was even longer, but I edited it for readability. To provide further insight, my sister has previously told me that I am simply too much for her, that I possess a big personality and that I am stubborn, and I will admit, I recognize my own stubbornness in this situation as well. One of the examples she shared with my mother was when I came to visit her after college, finished showering, and took a towel from her rack. My sister entered and exclaimed, "Oh no, why are you using my towel?" I completely did not understand, and my immediate response was, "So, we are sisters." She merely rolled her eyes and walked away. She told my mother this was an example of my narcissism because my opinion overshadowed hers. My mother then explained that Amy is sensitive about her skin and likely just wanted her own towel. I then understood and accepted that. I never took her towel after that. Another example was when she was showing me her skincare routine. I simply said, "Oh, I wish I had known this earlier," in a lighthearted manner. My sister then told my mother that I was intentionally making her feel guilty for not informing me about skincare, which made her feel like a bad sister. I thought to myself, "Oh, my bad. That was not even my intention at all." Unfortunately, she never shared those feelings with me, and I tried addressing the topic, but she would often stonewall me and divert the conversation. So I chose to let it go. My mother has attempted several times to gently ask my sister what exactly went wrong between us. However, her fallback response is always, "I already said it before. I do not want to discuss it again." And the last time my mother and I could recall her actually talking about it was in 2020. To clarify, yes, I definitely placed her on a pedestal while growing up, and I recognize now how unfair that was. That is a tremendous amount of pressure to bear. However, once I entered college, that perception changed. I started to view her simply as Amy, not as this idealized figure. We were each other's maids of honor. I have even told her, "It is okay if you do not desire a deep relationship with me, but I do want to be part of my nieces' and nephews' lives." That is the aspect that hurts the most. I was actively involved in their lives during the first 10 years, monthly video calls, silly dances, experiments with slime, lava floor games, baking together, and cheering them on at their games. Transitioning from that to complete silence is surreal. Not only that, my parents are in their 70s, and my father suffered a stroke last year. Honestly, I was hoping for some civility. I did not want this to escalate to a point where we do not communicate or see one another until our parents' funeral. Yet now I can realistically envision that happening, and it is disheartening. The one thing I am grateful for at the moment is my circle of 13 amazing women from college. We have remained close, and when possible, we go on annual girls' trips. They have known me and my sister since our college days, and their perspective is. Perhaps Amy feels resentment because she is still carrying heavy responsibilities while I am child-free, and/or there may be some form of white fragility involved, like she cannot identify anything she did wrong, causing her to label me as the narcissist. They have all reassured me that I have not crossed any significant boundaries as an aunt or attempted to force a relationship that was unwelcome. They view her reaction as disproportionate. They also claim that when I am around their children, I am like Ms. Frizzle from the Magic School Bus. I am actually a foreign language teacher and work with all ages. In any case, I came here seeking clarity and I have received it. Thank you truly.